Hey guys, what's up? Today we're going to talk about WordPress security. And there's one awesome plugin that I found called All-in-One WordPress Security. So all you got to do is go into WordPress, plugins, add new, look it up. There it is. Now I've got it already installed, but you will click on install and activate it. Now this is a very comprehensive, user-friendly, all-in-one WordPress security and firewall plugin, as it says there in the description, and it is very secure. It's a very comprehensive and very, very good plugin. So if you want to secure your WordPress site, I highly recommend this plugin. Get it, install it, it's free. So I've got it installed. Let's go to the dashboard. This is your control center. This is going to give you a lot of information about your WordPress security as it is right now, after you've installed this particular plugin. Now on the left side, it gives you a security strength meter. That tells you where you stand in terms of how many points you can get. These points tell you, how secure your website could possibly be and where you stand. So I could get 460 points. Mine is at 320. I don't care. It's pretty secure. It's in the green zone. There are some options that I didn't enable because I didn't want to enable them, because I didn't want to, disable some functionality that I wanted. Now, the second little box there tells you where you're getting your security points from, all these different options that you've enabled. And then you got the logged in users. There are no other users logged in, which is good. File changes detected. Have there been any recent file changes to key files? The last 5 logins, that tells you who is logged in the last 5 times. And then on the right-hand side, critical features that I've enabled. You'll see, some features are red for you, and don't worry about that right now. We'll go through each setting, so don't touch anything here on this screen initially. Now, once we're finished, it should all be green for you as well on your WordPress installation. There's a maintenance mode in case you want to put your WordPress in protected maintenance mode, so nobody can access your site except for you. And you don't normally turn this on unless you think that there's a big security breach. And then you locked out IP addresses that have been automatically locked out of your website. So let's go into the settings here, and there's user accounts, user logins, different registration features to secure logins, database security, file system security, whois lookup, which is really, really nice. That's built into this. Blacklist manager, where we can manually block certain IP addresses and IP subnets. Firewall settings, brute force attacks that we can prevent, spam prevention, scanner, maintenance, miscellaneous. Don't worry about what all these mean right now. We'll go into all these settings, and I'll explain in detail what each option means. So I'm going to go through. That's why this video is about 50 minutes long. So grab yourself a drink or whatever, and let's go through this. The first thing you want to do before you make any changes is to back up certain key files and databases. So it's always a good practice to take a backup of your htaccess file, database, WordPress database, and the WP config, which are files needed by your WordPress installation. Anything messes up with those, you could potentially lock yourself out of your website or damage your website. So first thing, back up your database. And all you have to do is, click on Create DB Backup now, right at the top, and that's it. So follow the prompts. I've already done that. Enable automated backups. This is a really, really nice feature that you don't need a separate plugin for this. There are lots of plugins to back up your database files. This has it built in, and I got 20 brownie points for that. This is where you get the points, that you saw on your dashboard. So enable that. I've set it to backup weekly, and I'm going to keep 2 weeks worth of backups. So I'm going to keep 2 copies of that database just in case anything messes up and I need to restore from that WordPress database backup. I can also send myself a copy of that file via email, but I don't like to do that. There's no reason for that. As long as it's backed up in your server, that's fine. Now there's another option here that I'm not really too fond of, so I haven't enabled it. The database tables for WordPress all start with WP_. You can change that if you want. You can change it to something else. This is under the assumption that if you've got bad code on your website, somebody's managed to hack in, they can access your database tables by just knowing that they start with WP_ and then the names of the tables. You can change it to whatever you want if you want to. You can randomly generate a prefix, or you can use whatever you want as a prefix. So you could use word_ or whatever. So I'm not a big fan of this. It's just not something that I, in case there are plugins that are not coded 100% according to standard, and they do expect the database tables for WordPress to start with WP_, they may not work. So I don't like to touch this particular setting. But if you think everything's good for you and your WordPress plugins are all fine and well coded, then go ahead and do that. The other thing you want to back up is the htaccess file. Now, this is where all the security settings are. So all you do is backup, click on backup htaccess file, and it'll back up your htaccess. That tells WordPress, or other, your setup, how to secure your particular files and setup. So it may prevent access to certain files and folders. There may be options that are enabled, that you need enabled for this installation. We don't need to go into detail on that. There's also the WP config file. Now you can get to these settings by just clicking on settings, and there you go. And then you can click on backing up the different files, or you can just click on one of the tabs at the top. So again, click on backup, WP config file, and backs it up. You can also restore. So there's a restore. Select your WP config file. If something messes up, you can restore that file. This file also contains your WordPress database name and user that WordPress uses to log into the MySQL database for WordPress. So this is a pretty key file, and you do want to back it up. Now, there's also some meta information. This is what can tell potential hackers what version of WordPress you have installed. So usually by default, WordPress shows this information on every page of your WordPress site and the meta information. So it could be WordPress 3.5.1, which is an older version of WordPress as of this writing. And there may be hackers exploiting that older version because it has known exploits. So by knowing the version of WordPress, they could attempt to hack into your website with those known exploits because you haven't updated your WordPress. Now enable this, save settings, and you get those 5 extra brownie points. This prevents access to those files that will prevent users, or rather hackers, from getting that information. Now there's also a nice feature here, import-export. Once you've set up this particular plugin and all the settings for AIO WPS, you can back up or export those settings. So in case you want to redo your website, you want to set this website up again, you can restore those settings without having to go through every single option that we're going to go through right now. So it's just one click, import, well, export first, and then once you set up your new site, then you can import it and all the settings will be back. Now make sure you don't export these and use these on a different domain or different site, because settings may be different and may use a domain name, and you may lock yourself out. So the other options here are user accounts. You want to make sure that your username for logging into your admin side of your website is different than the default admin username. By default, when WordPress is set up, it uses the admin username. If you come in here, There's one click, it will change that username for you. So, mine is already changed, so I don't need to do that. But if you do have admin as your admin user ID, just click on the option, change it, and you'll get those 15 extra brownie points, because this gives hackers 50% of what they need to hack into your site. Username and password. The display name is also critical. So if you're posting on your website, posting articles, comments, whatever, that display name for your account is by default set to the same as your admin ID. So again, you need to change that. You can change that, to whatever you want. Just change it to something other than your admin user ID. So you get 5 brownie points for this. I love this gamification that they built into this plugin. This is awesome. Gamification really helps, because it gives you a guide as to how well you're doing in terms of securing your site. You get 5 extra brownie points, change that display name. Don't make it the same as your admin login. Now, this is one really cool feature. The password here. This password tool lets you see how secure your current password is. Now, this is one feature that is well worth, even if you don't use any of the other features in this plugin that I'm going to show you. This particular tool is awesome. Per password selection, I've seen passwords such as password or 1234 that are really bad passwords. You do not want to do that. You want to have a really good password. So this tool, all you do is you go down and you type in whatever password that you want to test, and it will tell you how long it will take a normal desktop PC to crack that password. And remember, automated bots are kind of smarter because they try lots and lots of different combinations of passwords. So you can come in here and you can type in whatever password you want, and we'll see how secure it is, how long it will take for somebody to hack that password or figure out what that password is. So let's try something really dumb like a password. That'll take 1 minute and 13 seconds for somebody to hack into your website. They'll figure that out pretty quick. And automated script will figure it out just like that. So let's try a different one, something that's, it's got an uppercase, lowercase, and maybe a number thrown in there. So let's see, Tom, that's a 0 by the way, T-O-M-L-0-V-E-S, Tom loves. We'll put some special character here. How about a $sign? So that's going to take 6 years and 5 months. That's a pretty secure password. But what happens if we add another special character at the end? Let's see. With exclamation mark. Okay, it jumps to 609 years and 11 months. That's how long it's going to take to crack that password. That is a pretty secure password. So this is an awesome tool. This is an awesome tool. Make sure you use this and make sure that you check that your password is very secure. Now you can use letters and numbers, uppercase, lowercase, special characters. Use all those to make sure that your password is very secure. You do not want a simple password. You do not want somebody hacking into your website very easily, because I guarantee you, you'll regret it. So check your password here. This is very secure. And this one option it's well worth this plugin just to get this one option. Okay, so we talked about your user ID, your password. We're going to look at the user logins. So with the user logins, there's the lockdown options. We want to lock down certain features. So enable login lockdown. This will enable some of those other features that we have below. So I've set it so that maximum login attempts will be 2 incorrect login attempts within a 5-minute period, and it'll be locked out for 5 minutes if that happens. and instantly log out invalid usernames. So if somebody tries to use an invalid username that's not set up on our WordPress site, they'll be automatically instantaneously locked out from that particular IP. So this is a really, really good feature to have. Make sure you set all these. You get 20 brownie points for this. Again, I love the gamification in this plugin. It's really, really nice. Yeah, so set those. That's what I recommend. Failed login attempts. This tells you all the logins that have happened, that have failed from the IP, these IP addresses. They tried that username and they attempted this login on that date and time. Now, if you ever want to go into your ISP, or rather not your ISP, but you want to follow up with these particular login attempts, you can go to their IP and their ISP, and I'll show you how to do that. You can also automatically force logouts. I don't set this because what this does is it automatically logs in logged in users. It logs out logged in users after a certain amount of time. So if somebody logged in and you want to automatically log them out after 60 minutes or whatever, you can enable this. Now, this is under the assumption that somebody's hacked into your site and they're trying to do something bad there and you want to automatically log them out after a certain time. But if they're already in your site, they can come in here and change this option themselves. I don't even bother with this. I'd rather prevent them from managing to log in the first place. So we'll look at some of the other options here. Account activity logs. This tells you what activity has happened. So this user ID with this username logged in on this date and time from this IP address. So if you see something in here and you notice that, oh, you're the only one that can log in, but you did not log in on this date and time from this IP, something is suspicious. Somebody's managed to log in. Somebody is hacked in. So logged in users, this is who's currently logged in. It should only be you if you're the only person that is allowed to log in. Okay, so this is a really, really nice feature. Now the user registrations, this prevents anybody, if you set your website up to allow user registrations, this option, enabling this option, lets you manually approve their registration before they can do anything on your website. So they'll still be allowed to register on your site if that's what you want, but they won't be able to do anything until you manually approve them. So it just gives you an extra level of security in case you notice that somebody's registered that looks suspicious. And you get 20 brownie points for this. All you do is check that out, check option. And you want to automatically disable all newly registered accounts so that you can approve them manually. Just check that, enable it, just done. This is a good thing to have. Now save the settings, go to registration capture. This registration capture is pretty awesome. This adds an extra field in the login for your website. So just turn this on. This is awesome. What this does is adds an extra field. They have to not only enter the username and the password, they'll have to enter an answer to a mathematical question, a simple mathematical question. If it's an automated script, and there's a lot of automated scripts trying to log into your website, and you may not realize it until you install this plugin and see the login attempts. So turn this option on. Don't even think about it twice. Just turn it on, and this will add an extra field to your login screen for your website. So we'll show you that. There you go. This is the login to your WordPress. There's a username and password. That's normally the only thing you have. The extra field that option adds is, please enter an answer in digits to this question. 20 plus 15 equals. Now, this is simple arithmetic, so if you're a human being, you can answer this question. Now, if you refresh the screen, it also can use letters, not just numbers. So 15 plus 8. Now this is much harder for automated bots and automated scripts to answer this question, because they don't, I mean, there are smarter scripts coming, but it's an extra level of security that really prevents a lot of the hacking attempts. So username, password, and this extra captcha field. They call it a captcha field to capture or prevent, bots from logging in. Now let's look at database security. Now we looked at this before a little bit. Now if you change the prefix of the tables for your WordPress installation, normally they start with WP underscore. You want to change that. You can change that to something else. I don't like to do that, just in case there are WordPress plugins that expect WP underscore and they're not coded the way they should really be coded. This may be too technical for you if you're not technically inclined, and I wouldn't mess with this setting just in case there are plugins that expect WP underscore for the WordPress tables. Here we go, back at the database table. We've done that before. Save the settings, back up automatically every week for 2 weeks maximum. Gives you some extra brownie points. Now, this secures your files, your default WordPress installation files, or key files that WordPress needs to operate properly. When you install plugins, some plugins may change these permissions on these files to insecure settings. You want to change the settings for these files so that they are secure. I'm just looking at one installation on one website here. Now the current permissions should match the recommended permissions. If they don't, all you do is go under recommended action. Yours may not show all green, yours might show some red there. And under recommended action, you just click whatever button is showing up there to change the current permissions to the recommended permissions so that you see all green here. The permissions for these files and folders should be set correctly so that bad code, any script, or anything that gets to your site can't access these particular files and change these files, because these are core WordPress files. So again, the current permissions should be set to recommended permissions. And if they're not, go up to the right hand side under recommended action and click change, or the permissions to match. Now let's take a look at the PHP file editing. Now I don't turn this on. What this does is it prevents you from changing PHP files such as plugins and theme files from within your WordPress dashboard. Now I don't turn this on just because in case I ever want to change something, because I'm a bit more of a techie. This may not apply to you because you're not a techie, but you may set this option because you don't want to change the PHP files. You don't care about changing PHP files. In that case, just check this on and you'll get 10 extra brownie points. But I don't change this option because I may want to change the PHP files myself from the dashboard. So for you, if you're non-techie, you can turn it on. Now there are a few other options here, such as WP file access. Again, this is WordPress files. There are some files that are installed by default, such as readme.html, license.txt, and WP config sample.php. Now these are installed by the WordPress installation by default. And these don't really serve any purpose, but they may have version information that we don't want hackers to see. So we just check that off and you're done. Nobody can access those files. So the other thing that we can look at is the host system logs. Usually if there's some errors, if you're a techie, again, if you're a techie, this is where you come and you can look at the error log for your WordPress installation. If you're not a techie, you don't really care about this, and you can just skip this. But if you are seeing some errors and you want to diagnose what those errors are, you can view the error log here by just clicking View Latest System Logs. Now this whois lookup is really awesome. Remember in the login attempts, we saw that people were trying to log into our WordPress installation. We can find out who those people are. So all we have to do is type in their IP address, and I'll go through this a bit more. But under the user login that we looked at before, go under failed login records. So these are all the people that try to log into our site. And, you know, from these IP addresses. And from on those dates and those times and those IP addresses. So we take one of those, they fail to log in, we punch that in here. Now remember the asterisk at the end, we want to change that. That gives us a range. That can be anywhere from 1 to 254. So maximum 254 IP addresses. So we can just type in 1, for example, and we can try to figure out who that person is. We have to have numbers in there. We can't have asterisks. So again, that last asterisk indicates any number from 1 to 254. And since we can't have an asterisk when we do a whois lookup, we enter a 1 just to pick any one of those IP addresses. And then we do a perform IP or domain lookup, and this will tell us where that IP address is coming from. So in this case, it's a business called Data Communications Business Group, and we see the address there. I think that's a subsidiary, Changhua Telecom Company. It's in Taiwan, Taipei, Taiwan, Taipei City in Taiwan. So somebody tried to log into my website, and you know, you could follow up with these abuse email address. Usually there's an abuse email address where you think somebody has tried to abuse, you know, their services. These could be ISPs, but in this case it says, you know, they're telling you that basically they're not empowered to investigate any abuse attempts. So you're out of luck here. I don't know who this company is, but they don't care. They don't seem to care about anybody abusing their services, using their services to try to hack into other sites. So, but this will give you information about who is trying to hack into your site, from where, and the possibility of following up with those guys. So this is a really, really, really useful feature. Normally you have to use a third-party tool or website to get this information, but having this built into this particular plugin is great. Now this also tells you a range. This tells you this is a pretty big range. 114.32.00.114.47.255.255. That's a huge IP range. So this must be a big company with lots and lots of users and possibly other companies using their systems to access the internet. So that's potentially a lot of users. But the subnet that we have at the top, 114.39.13.star, is a much narrower IP range. That's only 1 to 254 IP addresses. So, you know, I already added that in there to block that because I saw a lot of hacking attempts from that IP address. All this is doing is blocking basically 254 IP addresses from hacking into my site. I don't want anybody from that subnet. So anytime you see an asterisk at the end, that indicates this is a subnet. So it's an IP range. So ... whatever that star means 1 to 254. Now already, like I said, already added that in at the top. so I don't need to re-add that. This is where you come in and you block. You turn this feature on, enable IP or user agent blacklisting, and you can enter IP addresses in here or IP address ranges. I wouldn't add individual IP addresses because those could change pretty often. But a subnet that I don't care about, I mean, most of my traffic is coming from North America. I don't really care about this traffic from Taipei. And there's 254 IP addresses from Taipei that have been trying to hack into my site. I don't really care about them. So I'm going to block them from even trying to access my site. They can't access my site. They can't even log in. I mean, they can't even try to log in. So this information, all this information gets added to the htaccess file that we talked about before. So this is where it's very important to back up that .htaccess file in case you want to, re-implement these settings later on. So come in here, look up, under user logins, look up who's trying to hack into your site, the failed login attempts. Go to who is lookup and figure out who those guys are. If you don't care about them, then come in here into the blacklist manager and add that subnet. That's the process you should be taking if you see a lot of login attempts. So this just tells you the format of these IP addresses that you can enter. You have to enter each one on a separate line. This is really useful that they have this more information for each field. And that's really, really useful. You can also add user agents. Now there are agents that are, pretending to be Google bots, for example. Googlebot is the Google search engine bot. That's legitimate. It comes and indexes your website. But there could be spam bots. There could be other bots trying to crawl your site. So if you see bots that you think that should be blocked out, and you can find out about these online. We won't go into this too much. You can add those in here under user agents and block those bots from crawling your site. So we're over halfway here, so stay with me here. We'll go into the firewall settings and look at some more options here. Firewalls. Now, this is really, really nice. I'm just amazed at all these features that they've added here. So basic firewall settings, enable basic firewall. This enables certain basic options. So, let's take a look at it. It basically adds certain features to your htaccess file to secure certain things, such as, let's see here, functionality achieved via the intrusion of special code into your current active htaccess file. If you want to see what that does, there it is. Protect your htaccess file. So your key htaccess file that secures the site is also protected. Disable server signature, limit file upload size to 10 megabytes. Protect your WP config file by denying access to it. So it protects certain key files. So you want to turn this on. This just basic firewall security. You get some extra brownie points. Now pingback, I don't really pingback. I don't turn this pingback vulnerability protection on, because if you're accessing your WordPress site and managing it through mobile apps, so say you have an iPad and you have an iPad app that lets you add and update your posts on your WordPress site, this will probably disable that WordPress app on your mobile tablet and whatnot. So I don't turn this on. I don't consider it a huge vulnerability if you've enabled all the other options that I've shown you. But you may turn this on. If you don't care about accessing your or updating your website via mobile apps, you can turn this on. And you don't care about pingbacks, just turn this on. I don't like to do this because I do sometimes use mobile apps to update my website. So this is really up to you. This is one of those things that, you can decide if you want to turn on or not. Yeah, so that's all I have to say there. And let's look at additional firewall rules. Here we can disable listing of directories. So say somebody goes to a particular directory and you don't have an index file in that directory, they will see all the contents in that directory. You don't want to allow that because that could potentially expose your content. Say you have particular files that you're sharing only with certain users. You don't want somebody from accessing those files just by figuring out, what that directory is and just trying to navigate into that directory. And it also disables trace and track. So turn the listing of directory contents on, disable that. It doesn't let you view the contents. Disable trace and track. Disable comment posting through proxy servers. We'll talk about that a bit more. But the trace and track, just click on the more info to see what that really does. So there are certain attacks, such as the, HTTP trace attack, that if you want to find out more about these things, I would just Google them. I'm not going to go into detail about these things because, this video is pretty long already. The proxy comment posting, if there are spam comments coming into your website, they're most likely coming from automated scripts. So they're bypassing the normal way of commenting that a human being comments. So they usually use proxy servers. You want to enable this. That's good. Bad query strings. Again, these are ways for hackers to try to hack into your site. This feature will write rules in htaccess file, again, htaccess file, that will prevent malicious code strings attacks on your site. So this is called XSS attacks. Advanced character string filter. Again, I'm not going to go too much into this. Just know that these are things that you should enable to prevent certain types of attacks. So again, backing up your htaccess file is pretty critical because all of these things enable these features in htaccess file. They update your htaccess file. If for some reason you're locked out of your site, it's probably because your htaccess file is not set correctly. But I turn all of these on. There's also a blacklist firewall rules that is available through Perishable Press. Perishable Press. The 5G blacklist is a simple, flexible blacklist that helps reduce the number of malicious URL requests that hit your website. So this is a very nice feature to have. I enable this. It prevents certain attacks by certain sites. And you get 20 points for that. That's a lot of points. That's because it's very useful. So what does this do? Blocks forbidden characters commonly used in exploited attacks. Block malicious encoded URLs such as CSS, etc. So turn that on. Internet bots. Again, it blocks fake Google bots. You want to turn this on. And I don't even think about this one. Just turn it on. It prevents fake Google bots from trying to access and index your site. So right there, you'll see this feature allows you to block bots which are impersonating as a Google bot but actually aren't. In other words, they are fake Google bots. So turn that on. You get 5 brownie points. Prevent hot linking. This is also another nice little feature that I didn't expect in this plugin. It prevents somebody from hot linking to your images on your site. So say you have images that you have on your website. Somebody can link to those images and serve them from your site. So hotlink is where someone displays an image on their site which is actually hosted on your site by using a direct link to the source of the image on your server. This is kind of a sneaky way of displaying images from your site on somebody else's site. It just adds extra traffic and overhead on your site. 404 detection, you can turn this on if you want. If you see a lot of attempts to access pages that don't exist. So, a 404 or not found error occurs when somebody tries to access a non-existent page on your website. If you see a lot of these in here under the 404 event logs, turn it on. I personally don't care a lot about this because I don't see this very often, but you can turn this on if you see a lot of those attempts. Enable IP lockout. So basically what it does, it locks out that particular IP that is trying to access pages that don't exist on your site. So, and they're redirected to this 127.0.0.1, which is non-existent on the internet. It's just a local IP address on their network. Let's look at some brute force attacks. Now, these are attacks using brute force. So an effective brute force prevention technique to change the default WordPress login page URL. So what this does, it changes the default login page from WP admin to something else. So normally, say, for my site, it could be, .com/Watson. So I could change the login page for my site to something else. Now, again, this is a feature that I kind of hesitated about, because if you change the login page to a different URL, and then you can't access that URL, you basically locked out yourself from your own site. So use that with discretion. It changes the login page. Cookie-based brute force prevention. Again, this is another method to prevent brute force attacks. I'd rather turn on some of these things here. So the captcha we talked about on the login page. Check if you want to insert captcha on a custom login page. Check if you want to insert a captcha form on the lost password page. So you turn the captcha on the login page, custom page, and the lost password page. Those I would turn on. This whitelist, basically, it prevents anybody from logging into your site except from these particular IP addresses. I would not mess with this setting unless you're only accessing your site from this particular set of IP addresses. Now, I travel, I'm sure you travel, and you want to be able to access your site from anywhere, not just, a narrow range of IP addresses. If you're at work and you only access your login page from a known set of IP addresses, then you may want to turn that on. This honeypot field, that's another very, very cool feature. Now, I turn this on, you should turn this on. This feature allows you to add a special hidden honeypot field on the WordPress login page. This will only be visible to robots and not humans. So only robots will see this, automated scripts. They will try to enter some information into that field, and that will be their downfall. They will not be able to log into your website because they entered something into a field that we don't care about. So this honeypot, if they dip their toes into that honeypot, they'll be locked out. So there's another extra security feature that I didn't expect in this particular plugin, but is really, really, really nice. Okay, we're 3/4 of the way through here. We're not too far to the end here. We only have about 5-10 minutes left, so let's continue on. So comment spams. Now you want to turn on some of these things, like if you don't have other plugins to turn these on, then you can turn them on here. So what this will do is prevent, comment spams. And this feature will add a simple math capture to the WordPress comment form and prevent spam bots from commenting on your site. And if you want to make sure that the comments are coming from your site and not from an automated script, you can turn that second option on as well. So again, these are nice to have features unless you're using some other plugin to prevent this kind of spam commenting. You can comment spam IP monitoring. So this is the comment spam IP monitoring. So this tells you the IP address and the number of spam comments from this IP address. So this is basically monitoring. This tells you how many number of spams you want to accept from this particular IP address or particular IP address before you block it. It also, so how many spams would you allow before you block a particular site? You can enter whatever number that you want. You can enter 1. You only want to allow 1 spam comment before you block that IP address out. Or you can say 5 or whatever. If you turn this on, set it to some reasonable value. Setting it to 0 or 1 will list all IP addresses which were used to submit spam comments. Setting the value to 5 will list only the IP addresses that submitted 5 spam comments. BuddyPress. Oh, this is a nice feature that I didn't expect either. This will protect, spam commenting on your BuddyPress site if you use BuddyPress. I don't care about BuddyPress. I don't really care about that, so I don't have that in there. BuddyPress is not enabled, so it doesn't really show me anything. Okay, scanner. If given an opportunity, hackers will insert the code or files into your system, which they can then use to carry out malicious acts on your site. So this will tell you if a file was manually changed on your site. Some key files that were manually changed. I want to check this every 4 weeks, and I don't want to check image files, and I want to ignore the error log. I don't care about that. That has no relevance to any hacking. And I want to send this as an email to myself. So that will tell you about any file changes to key files. Malware scan, this is not really there yet. They probably will add that later. The DB scan, this feature is not really there yet either. So these are nice upcoming features that they may add in the future. Okay, last 2 options here. Maintenance. This basically locks out your site to anybody. So the front end, it locks out the front end of your site. It puts it in maintenance mode. Nobody can nobody can see your site, but you can still log into your site in the back end. So it's like a maintenance coming soon page, but it's just a maintenance page built into this particular plugin. All they'll see is whatever message you put there, this site is currently not available, please try again later. Or whatever HTML or comment or whatever you put in there. That's a nice little feature built into this plugin. You don't need an extra plugin for that. Now miscellaneous, there's a couple of nice little miscellaneous options here. This will disable the ability to select and copy text from your front end. So nobody can right mouse click, copy your text. Frames, this prevents anybody from showing your site or pages in a frame on a different site. So why would anybody want to do that? They want to serve your content on their site, and this will prevent them from doing that. This just adds overhead and traffic to your site if somebody's trying to do that. So I turn these options on. Okay, we're basically done here. Now, what I would do is, in terms of once you've set all these options, after you've set all these options, all you have to do, maybe every few days or once a week or whatever schedule you set, all you have to do is go into user logins, see who's trying to hack into your site, the failed login records, see who's trying to get in, make a note of, any attempts there, the login IP, enter that into the who is, and we want to find out who that person is, or that company, or that IP address range. And then if we see a lot of activity from there, we just want to block that IP range. And make sure you see who that is first, because you don't want to block out your own ISP and be locked out of your own website. So there you have it, a comprehensive walkthrough of this particular plugin. Install it, go through all the steps I've outlined, and you should have a pretty secure WordPress installation. If you liked the video, click on the like button below and let me know. That way it'll entice me to produce some more videos like this. So until next time, take care.